Hello YouTube, my name is Erica and this is Unaesthetic Reads. QOBB. Just kidding, I don't have an OBB. Welcome to my very first book vlog. Who knows if I'll be able to keep this up, but what the heck, right? First of all, that buzzing sound you can hear in the background, that's just my air conditioner because I live in a tropical country and it's hot and we just have to deal with that until I get a better microphone. So there. Second, I think it's great that the book community has grown along with technology and social media. There's Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube, is there a Book Twitter? BookBlur. Yeah, I think it's amazing and I wish I had that when I was younger. I think it's amazing, as I've said, and that's why I've decided to jump onto the BookTube wagon and share with the rest of the internet my love for reading. As a younger person, I used to just devour books. I would read one book after the other and another and another until by the end of any given year I would have read 100 books. That may sound impressive, but not really, because if you had asked me then anything about the books that I've read, I wouldn't have been able to tell you a single thing except for the title. Maybe. And so for the year 2022, I challenged myself to read just one book a month, so that's 12 books for the entire year. That way I'd be more intentional with my reading and hopefully I'd be able to remember more than just the title of the books that I've read. And here we are. We are all gathered here today to discuss the books that I have read in the year of our Lord, 2022. I read a total of 20 books. 7 of which are physical copies, as you can see here on my stool of books. Some I bought brand new, others I bought secondhand. 17 of the 20 books I read are ebooks, because Kindle is life. So what I'm going to do in this video is just go through them down the line based on the ratings that I gave them on Goodreads, and maybe say something a bit about the books themselves. Okay, and we'll start with the 2-star reads. Let me check my notes. The first book is Paradise. This is the first book in the Second Opportunity series by Judith McNaught. I am a contemporary romance hoe, and the second chance romance trope is my personal brand of heroine. Yeah? So I picked this one up thinking that it would be filled with that sweet, delicious, slow burn tension and angst. But 2 stars. Yeah, it tells the story of Matt and Meredith, who met when they were younger and fell instantly in love, but because of social class differences, Meredith is rich, Matt is poor, they were broken up. Years later, Matt has become this ultra-successful businessman, and Meredith is this high-powered career woman, and they meet again, and they hate each other, sort of, I don't remember exactly, and they fall in love again, eventually. Yeah, all the ingredients of a good second chance romance are there, and it did start out promising enough, but it just went everywhere. It was a mess. Not even a hot one, just a mess. So the next 2-star book is The Viscount Who Loved Me. This is the second book in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. And if you're thinking that I picked this book up because of the Netflix series, you'd be correct. I adored the second season of Bridgerton, and Anthony and Kathani Sharma are up there with Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet in my hate to love OTP scale. Fight me. So this book just disappointed me. It tells the story of Anthony Bridgerton and Kate Sheffield, 2 unlikely people who hated each other but somehow ended up together in a marriage of convenience. I knew going into the book that it's going to be very different than the TV show, but still the hate to love trope was there, and I just didn't feel any of the 10,000 feelings I felt while watching the TV series. Yeah, I know it's reductive and may even be unfair to judge the book based on the show, but I feel that even if I hadn't seen the TV show before reading this book, I would have still given it the same rating. The last of my 2-star reads is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. And before you come at me for giving this book talk darling a less than ideal rating, please hear me out. This is a case of it's not the book, It's me. It's about Frances, a lonely type A high schooler who loves listening to a Welcome to Night Vale-ish podcast and accidentally meets the creator of said podcast. I understand that a lot of people can relate to the themes of loneliness, isolation, pretending you have it all together, but not really having a clue on what to do in life. Yeah, I understand. But the characters are annoying. I found them annoying. And maybe that's the point. They are teenagers. Yeah. But I loved Frances' mom. The main character's mom. I loved her. She's cool. And the fact that my favorite character in a young adult book is the mother. That says it all, I guess. Now for my lone 2.5 star book. It's Galatea by Madeline Miller. If any of you is not familiar with the story of Galatea and Pygmalion, it's about Pygmalion, a talented sculptor, and his statue wife, Galatea, whom he sculpted out of marble and was given life by the goddess Aphrodite. This is one of those Greek mythology stories that has a rare happy ending. But in Madeline Miller's story, I guess you could call it a sequel, Galatea is not happy with her situation and she finds a way to get out of it. I gave it 2.5 stars because I felt that it would have been a more effective book if it was longer. It's a short story, by the way. It's 20 pages. Madeline Miller is talented in writing the emotional journey of her characters like Circe in Circe and Patroclus in The Song of Achilles. And the 20 pages weren't enough for her to exercise that skill. And it's such a shame because Galatea is such an interesting character and I would have loved to have been inside her head more deeply, if that makes any sense. I cannot grammar, y'all. Moving on to the 3 books that got 3 stars. Witty. The first is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is another contemporary romance and book talk darling. This is my first Emily Henry book and probably my last because even though the book did what it came here to do, it was just okay for me, and so I'm not really compelled to read another book by the same author, and that's okay. That's fine, you know. It tells the story of Poppy, a travel writer for an aspirational lifestyle magazine. Yeah, she has everything she ever dreamed of, but she's still unhappy. And through our friend, she realizes that the last time she felt true joy, true happiness, was when she was with her best friend Alex when they were still going on their yearly vacations. That's the gist of it. As I said, that's it. It was just okay. It was cute. It did not rock my world. It made me tear up in some parts, but yeah, just okay. So 3 stars. My second 3-star book is another contemporary romance and book talk favorite, The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Yeah, it's a fake dating romance, and let me just say right off the bat that this trope is not for me, along with insta love. I mean, if you're gonna give me fake dating, make it super slow burn. I know they're gonna fall in love. It's inevitable. So you better make it a deliciously excruciating journey. And most of the fake dating romances I've read don't really take the time to do that, and this book is not an exception. It's about Olive, a science graduate student who finds herself fake dating Adam Carlson, a faculty member in her university and also an infamous asshole genius. Yeah, that's it. That's all there is to this book. My last 3-star book is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. It's a literary fic about a 30-plus-year-old woman, 32, if I remember correctly, named Keiko, who works at a convenience store, who's been working at a convenience store for almost 2 decades. And the people in her life doesn't really understand why she doesn't adhere to expected societal norms, such as getting a proper job and or getting married. And meanwhile, Keiko doesn't understand why people, particularly her family, thinks that she needs fixing, Working at a convenience store with its straightforward and predictable and comfortable routine, Keiko feels that she can function normally and even excellently. I gave it 3.5 stars because it's an interesting story. I can even relate to Keiko because I do wish that there's a clear-cut manual for navigating through life and all sorts of human relationships. Yeah, but ultimately I find the pacing too repetitive because most of the time we, the readers, are just inside Keiko's head. So it's a pattern of confusion, routine, so on and so forth. Yeah, still worth the read though. The next book is a 3.5 star and it's 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Jokes on me because I thought this book is a literary fiction because of the cover, but it turned out that it's another contemporary romance. What's that saying about not judging a book by its cover? Anyway, this is a second chance romance between Eva and Shane. Eva is a fantasy writer of the vampire and werewolves variety, and Shane is a literary fiction rock star, sort of. When they were younger, they had a tumultuous 7-day relationship, but tragic circumstances forced them apart until years later, they crossed paths again. They crossed paths again. I gave it 3.5 stars because like the previous 3 books, it was okay. But unlike the previous 3 books, it offered more. Eva and Shane are actually interesting characters, at least for me. And especially Eva, something about her matriarchal line, her mother. There's a thing about her mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother that was very interesting for me. I also loved Audrey, Eva's precocious teenage daughter. My only, I guess you could say, criticism is the pacing felt off at times. Some parts were unnecessarily long, while others I felt should have been given more time and a little more gravity. For instance, Shane's grief near the end. In any case, it's still an enjoyable read. The next book is another 3.5 star, and it's The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. A physical book. Yay! This book was a struggle and a half. It tells the story of Alex Stern, a Yale University freshman who's also on her first year of training as the Dante of the House of Leigh, which is like the regulatory board for the secret magic societies in Yale. Yeah, she also has, as par for the course, a mysterious past, which we, the reader, only get bits and pieces of throughout the book. I toiled from the beginning of this book up to the 60% mark. I don't know, the stakes should be high enough, but it didn't feel that way. Despite the supernatural and natural dangers around Alex, her motives didn't feel compelling or urgent. I was ready to dismiss this as a 2-star. But then, it had the audacity to end that way. So, I'm gonna read the sequel. Yeah, because the story is literally going to hell. And that's not a spoiler. My next 3.5 star book is They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. And this is for my He Had It Coming homies out there. This book is about Scarlett Clark, an English university professor by day and serial killer by night. That's not a spoiler. That's literally on the first page of the book and in the Goodreads summary. Yeah. But she doesn't just kill anyone who crosses her. She only kills abusive men. Hence the 3 stars I gave it. The half point is for the goddamn reveal in the middle of the book that I did not see coming and got me going like this for a hot minute. I would have given it 4 stars if not for the mess of the last few chapters. We are halfway through the list. Are you still with me? Hello? Hi, you're still there. Yay! The last book I read this year is also a 3.5 star, and it's Sleepwalking by Meg Wolitzer? It's the author's debut novel, and it tells the story of Claire, one of the infamous death girls in her university. It's beautifully written. However, I wish that It's centered on all three death girls instead of just Claire, but that's just me. Still a great read, so 3.5 stars. We are about to cross the 4-star territory, starting with How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. It's another contemporary romance, and actually the first book I read this year. I was thinking I would like to start off my reading with an easy, comfortable book, and this book did not disappoint. This tells the story of Naya, a university professor who leads a frumpy, boring life, and with the push of her friends, she decides to shake things up a bit by writing a list of things she's never done before and actually doing them. This leads her to our main male character, Jake. The banter in this book is class A. Good shit. Chef's kiss. He's so awkward and nerdy and cute that it made the Act 3 conflict actually painful. And Jake and Naya are actual adults with actual communication skills, which is rare in the world of contemporary romances. Also, Naya is a woman, a woman character who can and does save herself. And I am down with that. The next book is After the Night by Linda Howard. I have lost count of how many times I've read this book. This is a contemporary romance that I pick up whenever I'm in a slump and I just want to feel something from reading. It's an angsty hate-to-love romance between Faith, the girl from the wrong side of the tracks, and Gray, the golden boy of Prescott's most powerful family. One fateful night, Gray did something or contributed to something that drove Faith's poor family out of town. Years later, after that night, Faith comes back into town searching for something and drives Gray crazy, both in anger, lust, and eventually love. This book is a punch to the heart. I am not kidding. Mind you, this was written in 1997, so there's a lot of potentially problematic parts in there, but I actually find that it holds pretty well, all things considered. In summary, I love this book. My next 4-star read is Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh. I actually bought it along with her more famous book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, without knowing that is actually the more famous one of the two, but I chose to read this thriller first. From what I can recall, there's an old lady who lives in a cabin with her dog, and she finds a note in the woods about a dead body, and the old lady becomes obsessed with finding all about this murder that may or may not have taken place. The old lady is our unreliable narrator, and I remember appreciating how Moshfegh wrote her. There's not a lot of plot, it's just mostly the old lady actively speculating about the murder and the people she meets along the way, but I enjoyed it. If you like the type of thriller that's more atmosphere than action, then you might enjoy this as well. The 4th book that got 4 stars from me is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Now, what can I say about this book that hasn't been said all over booktube already? Okay, I'm not gonna tell you anymore what this book is about, because chances are you've already read this book. In case you haven't, I guess the one thing that you need to know about this book is it's all heart. I feel like the author took her heart out, ground it down to a million tiny infinitesimal pieces until it became powder, liquefied it, and used that as ink to write down her manuscript. I felt her love and care and passion in every word of this book. Her characters are fascinating and flawed and human, and even the tragedy towards the end of the book didn't feel contrived just to propel the story forward. It felt so real, and it was devastating, and I honestly can't remember what kept me from giving this 5 stars. I just don't want to change my rating yet. Maybe after I reread, but this one is a must read. Speaking of devastating, 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is a retelling of the classic Trojan War story as seen through the fates of the women, both Greek and Trojans, along with the goddesses and other female deities. Despite being one of the many adaptations of this story that I have encountered, the author still managed to surprise and break me. That Andromache and Astyanax scene, oh dear Lord, I didn't think that it could get more gut-wrenching, but Natalie Haynes was able to out-tragic the most tragic poet of all. Easily one of my most favorite reads of 2022. Next book is also a 4-star, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I actually alternated between reading this as an ebook and listening to the audiobook on my 2-hour drive to the mountain where I teach. Yes, I teach in a school on a literal mountain. Anyway, yeah, but after finishing the ebook and the audiobook, I decided to have a copy of my own. Set in fictional Gilead, we follow the story of an unnamed woman who functions as a handmaid in this totalitarian country. What is a handmaid, you ask? I am not gonna tell you because that's possibly a spoiler, but it's not what you think it is. Full disclosure, I decided to read the book because the TV series is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Yeah, but both are powerful. So, go watch the show, go read the book. And now, for my 5-star books of 2022. I actually have 3. Thank you, 5-star book gods. The first is Fire and Blood by George R.R.R. This is the first part of a 2-book series about the lives and losses of the Targaryens. I heard it said that the reason why some people didn't like the book was because it read like a long and dry Wikipedia entry, and I get that, I do. But here's the thing, this book was intentionally written as if a Grand Maester was merely writing accounts of the Targaryen dynasty for archival purposes. It's meant to be dry. And because the Grand Maester, our narrator, is so unreliable what with his biases and judgments, we, the reader, are forced to read between the lines. And that's half the fun of it. I hate George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin. So read this. Don't believe them. Don't believe the haters. My second 5-star book, and also one of my favorite books of 2022, and possibly ever, is Severance by Layne. I honestly don't know what to say about this book other than after reading this, as in literally after the last page and closing the book, I wanted to cry. I don't know why. I wanted to walk out and walk into the woods somewhere, even though I live nowhere near the woods, and just stare into the void and think about my choices in life. It's a deeply haunting story written in such an unpretentious way, but also vividly. I don't know if the book would have affected me as hard as it did had I read it pre-pandemic, but being one of the fortunate ones to live through 2020 definitely added a different layer of intensity in my reading experience of this, if that makes any sense. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. And finally, the last book on my list, the last 5-star book, is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. It's a historical fiction based on the life of Lucrezia d'Orsini, a 15 or 16-year-old duchess who died barely a year into her marriage to a much, much older man. Not much is known about her life and death, only that she died in a very mysterious manner. I love Maggie O'Farrell's Lucrezia. Despite being young and not well formed yet, she has this self-possession and a supernatural quality about her that I loved reading about. So knowing that she's going to die in the end, that's not a spoiler, knowing that she's gonna die in the end just broke my heart with every turn of the page. Yeah, but Maggie O'Farrell, oh, I could just thank you for that ending. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And that's the end of my list. Yay! Woo! I consider myself lucky for having read 3 5-star books this year, and may we all be as lucky or luckier this 2023. Yay! That's it. That's all. Thank you for watching. Bye!